Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's exciting to see you guys here. I'm joined here today with Jessica and Cordora. Am I saying it right?
Cordero.
Cordero. And we met back last year at one of the big events and basically just enjoyed each other's company so much. We decided we're going to start doing fun things together. And whether it's in person or virtually, this is our second event together. Jessica had another event about a year ago which we recorded. So that is on replay on our YouTube channel. So you guys are welcome to check that out. I'll post the link to our YouTube channel here shortly. We're going to start promoting our YouTube because we're moving from this platform to Zoom. This is one of our very last calls, if not our very last call on this platform. So I want to welcome each and every one of you. I'm going to be posting a link for our hub page, which will have our events on it here shortly. And we'll also be promoting that in other channels as well. So welcome if you're from whatever community. We have so many different communities joining us from Facebook. I think I have 3 or 4 different groups from there. I see we have facilities too. Donnie looks like he's from Wellstar. We just have people that's been with us for a long time. I see some of them like Enid. Enid's been with us for a long time. We also have Berry Nation community. If you're from them, let us know. And we have, I'm trying to think what else, just probably Jessica's community too. So anyways, we'll just keep going. And while I'm logging onto Facebook, because we're live there as well, I'm going to let Jessica tell you a little bit more about herself and her journey and why she's in this space and why she's here to help us. So Jessica, you take it off, girl.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenda. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for spending the next hour with me. I'm very grateful for your presence, and hopefully I can share some bits of wisdom that will be super nice to take. So take whatever resonates and leave the rest. I am a stress management coach. I've been in the wellness space for about 5 years now, and it was prompted by my own personal journey. And so the last time I met with you all last year, I spoke a lot more of that journey and growth and getting into that space. In the last year, I've been settling into self-acceptance. I feel like self-acceptance and stress management go hand in hand, because what is the root of anxiety but distrust of self, right? And so I help individuals understand self-limiting patterns of behavior. We highlight strengths. And so that we do that so we can confront and overcome trauma, right? Trauma and victimhood has like just this place next to each other, and it can feel very helpless. And so I help people find the strength in your journeys and in yourself. And to do all of that comes together to practice self-love and to build in that acceptance, so that way everyone can build better life practices, right? Because we don't just live, we're not robots, we don't just wake up and fall into a routine. Everything we do is a choice. And if we can inject a little bit of self-love and self-compassion and self-acceptance and understanding, we can traverse feelings like guilt and shame and even self-hate, which is all tied up when building and forging new identities, which is what the weight loss journey is, right? You're never the person that you started out to be. And even if you hit that goal weight and you hit all of your goals, you then ask yourself, like, what then? What do I do now? And if life happens and you backslide, it's all too easy to hold that guilt and judgment and shame. Like, I know better. I should have done X, Y, and Z. And it's so hard to really make purchase in the space of like, I did it before, so I can do it again. And life happens, and I'm a human being, and it's okay. So that's a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about today.
I'm going to unmute myself. So thank you for sharing, Jessica. And I feel like it's such a great space. I was multitasking, getting on our Facebook page. So I don't know if you mentioned 2 things. I wanted to make sure because I feel like it's cool. So your mom had weight loss surgery. I guess, did you mention that?
Yes. So my mom started her weight loss journey about 17 years ago. No, 15 years ago. And the beginning of her journey, and for those of us joining us who knew what the weight loss community was 15 years ago, was a different landscape. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for community, so it was very isolating. And there was still, I mean, there always is, but I feel like the prevalence of hatred and fat shaming was like really big in media and in the way that we talk to one another. It was something was normalized about it. So when she stepped out into this world, it was very scary. And I was a teenager, unable to really understand her perspective. And so she got the full gastric bypass. And so it was hard on her body and hard on herself. And there was fights within the community of like, is this the easy way out? Right. And I'm here to say it's absolutely not the easy way out. I think it's a lot harder. And so a lot of my connection to the community has just been being there for my mom and witnessing the pain and trials and tribulations that she's gone through. And as I grew up and I was facing my own traumas, she was able to empathize and help me. And I was able to empathize and help her, and recognizing that my mental health journey was very parallel to the mental health component in the weight loss space. Right. I've always been a staunch advocate for her. And I just couldn't understand like why this beautiful, strong, just warrior goddess woman was always just talking down on herself, right? Or minimizing the accomplishments that she made because she wasn't a size 4, she was a size 8, right? When she started at a size 16. And I'm like, lady, do you recognize like how far you've gone? And so that's actually how I met Brenda. I went with my mom to a, what was the conference called, Brenda? Do you remember? I think you're muted. Still muted. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. I just didn't want anybody to hear me typing as I was looking for the other event apps. I believe it was Obesity Help. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Yes.
Okay. So their conference, I think they might have just posted their conference this year. It's in Costa Mesa, California, which I'm thinking that maybe that's where it was when we met. Is that right?
That is Costa Mesa, exactly. So we met there, and my mom, for the first time, was she had hit her weight loss goals, and she was excited to join the community, but she was still like very afraid, right? And that's okay. We're like, I'm socially awkward, she's a little socially awkward, and so I went with her to be a pillar of strength and just like her overall hype woman for that. And that's how I met Brenda.
Exactly. Yeah, we had so much fun. And your mom is an amazing person too. I can see where you get those characteristics from too. So so there is some people here too, I see on a separate note asking about attendance, and I absolutely would be happy to send attendance. A lot of people have to attend so many support groups before having weight loss surgery. So we are all about cheering you on your weight loss journey to make sure that you get your surgery. And absolutely, I'm happy to send anybody's attendance anywhere. I'm trying to think of the easiest way because usually it's all in the chat box. How about going to, there's an ask a question feature, and just put your name and your email there and what program in the ask a question feature, and I will send it after this. If you're on Facebook, all you have to do is just put it in the chat box and I'll send it. So anyways, please keep going. Now, I feel like we could probably easily kind of transition to, at this point, to the content, what you're going to be talking about. So, yes.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to touch on for the next 40-ish minutes that we're all together. And I just want to say I'm so very grateful that we have such a diverse group of people here. And if you have any questions at any time, please put them in the chat box, because I'd like to talk about things that are very relevant and prevalent in your life, right? And so, like Brenda was speaking of, and the people requesting attendance, you know, it's important to go out and sort of get all of the positivity that you possibly can in education all together, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about timing, deciding when it's time for you to change your life, and that kind of goes along with like what kind of surgery that you want, right? And making peace with your decision, right? Not looking over your shoulder. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? That kind of thing. Then we're going to move on to creating sustainable support systems, right? Oftentimes the people closest to us don't really understand what it is that we're going through, or we don't understand how to communicate what we need, right? And so it's a two-part inquiry there. And then lastly, we'll talk about building result expectations with self-acceptance in mind, because it took a long time for me to like myself, but if I'm comparing myself to Angelina Jolie, like I'm not going to like myself ever, right? And everyone has a little bit of that in them, right? We're so quick to believe all of the bad things about us that we really don't embrace the beauty and what makes us beautiful, right? Whether it's a sense of humor or a beauty mark or your hair or whatever it is that makes you a beautiful human being. So starting with timing, right? So deciding when it's time to change your life. Everyone here today is on a different piece of their journey, whether you're pre-surgery, your surgery date is set and you're waiting, or your post-surgery, and then that can be 15 years like my mom, or it could be last year, right? So I'm going to touch a little bit about what might be relevant in those 3 stages. So if you're in that beginning stage, that informational stage, there's just so much out there, right? There's the complete rewiring of your system, there's sleeves, there's all these other accompanied surgeries that go with weight loss too. And that can be a lot of information, right? Because it touches on 1, our mental health, 2, our financial capabilities in our ability to work, right? And then 3, like what kind of human we want to be in our goals for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years next year, right? So when you're considering the timing of all of the things, one thing that I like to do and coach my clients on is think about the next 1 year and 3 years. Make it real to you. What are your goals, right? So that way, when you go into the forums and you're evaluating what kind of surgeries are out there and what their healing times and what other accompanying surgeries might be, such as skin reduction, right? You want to give yourself a map essentially and ask yourself, are you okay with all of these? Are you rushing something? Does it fit into all of your goals that you want to obtain? Because you really want to be as gentle with yourself as possible in this process, because the process itself is the furthest thing from gentle, right? No matter what you're doing, you are changing the way that you think, the way that you eat, the way that you relate to the world, the type of attention that you get, and the type of questions you'll get. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I get really annoyed when people ask me a bunch of questions like with a life decision. So when I was entering college, people were like, what are you studying? What are you going to do? And I'm like, why does it matter? Can I just figure it out? Right. And then when I went to law school, it was the same thing. What kind of lawyer do you want to be? Who do you know who do you want to be in 20 years? And I'm like, I don't know who I want to be tomorrow. So can I just figure this out? Right. So really, in the decision-making process, you have to ask yourself, what kind of person are you? Are you an internal processor or an external processor? And if you're an external processor, are you really just looking for you to say things out loud to make them real? Or are you actually inviting people's input, right? Those are 2 different things. I'm an external processor in that I just need to get whatever's in my brain out, but I don't want the external world to mess with it. That's why I get really frazzled with people's questions, because I'm like, is this the right choice? Is this the wrong choice? Is there a better choice that I'm not thinking of? And it makes me really insecure whenever I'm in that incubation stage, right? So that's the first piece. And it also goes to creating support systems and knowing what you want, right? If you're an external processor and you are inviting other people's input, we want to give them boundaries on how to give us that input, right? So it's not, you don't need any surgeries, you're beautiful as you are. I appreciate the sentiment, but I've decided to get this surgery. Your comment is unhelpful. I would like you to help me weigh the pros and cons of these 2 different types, right? You are the captain of your ship in any one of those conversations. So it's important for you to sit back Mary, yeah, exactly. You don't want too much input from others. So it's important to set those boundaries when like, hey, I've done a bunch of research and right now I have like alphabet spaghetti in my head. And so I'd like to talk this out with you, but understand that I just need your support. I'm not inviting input. Are you okay with that? Right. And then we have to give it to the other person. Are they okay with that? And if they are, the conversation goes great. But if they're in between their own existential crisis and they are not welcome to that input, that's great. We don't want their input anyway. We don't want their support anyway, because the support they would have given would have been weighed with their own stuff that has nothing to do with what you're doing, right? So in that pre-diagnostic space, Brenda, there's a question in the chat. Will this be available to stream later?
Yes, so this is automatically recorded immediately after this. It'll be that same link that you were registering for to get on this will be available. We also put all of our replays on our YouTube channel, which I'm going to post here in a second while you're talking too, so that people have access. We have over 150 replays on that as well. And Jessica, I want to add to what you're saying too, because I feel like a lot of times when we tell people something, like if sometimes, you know, that input, it really isn't about them accepting or loving ourselves. It's about us doing that. So if we can kind of like shut off that wall of needing anything from anybody else, needing love, needing approval, needing anything, we can shut that off and just say, you know what, I appreciate what your input is. It's okay, but I have the ability to make decisions for myself. And I feel like that's what you're saying. Like it's speaking to me so much. So,
And it's a very empowering place to be, right? Which is why it's important before you invite all that external input to just sit with it, right? What kind of processor are you, and what is your goal from this conversation that you would like to have with someone, right? So in the pre-surgery stage, it's all about that processing piece. Now, if your surgery is set, right, you might be thinking more along the lines of support, right? If you have a partner or you live with family or you have a friend coming over, how can you be gentle to yourself in that process? What does the timing of that look like? Now, when I'm sick, I want nobody to know and I want nobody's help, right? I am a terrible sick person. And with that though, if I feel the sniffles coming on or something, like I'll go to the store, grab everything that I need and just make sure it's in reach. And that's how present me plans for future me. So for those of you that have your exactly, Rhonda, to have that validation, and when you're seeking that validation, it's so much more easier to be like, hey, this is what I've decided. I'd like some validation. Here are my choices. This is why I decided to do it. Does this logically make sense, right? And then you have someone speaking to that direct piece of you that likes that or needs that at that moment in time, right? Which when your surgery is set, the conversations are a lot like that, right? I'm having surgery on the 30th. My doctor said that for that first week, I'm barely going to be here, right? So I'm going to wind down all of my things. And in those moments, I need these things, right? Favorite blanket, favorite outfit, if the textures are really nice to you, whatever that is, just figuring out that timing and either working backwards if that's how your brain works, or work frontwards up until about a year, right? Because it's very hard on your body. And we're trying to figure out how we can utilize both present you that's pre-surgery, but it's set, right? How can you take care of you, and how the people around you can take care of you? And then lastly, for the individuals that have chosen their surgery, they've had their surgery, and now they're thinking outwards, this timing component can still work for you to structure some goals, short-term, long-term, and also some life practices. This is where that self-acceptance component is a little bit different than the pre-surgery and surgery set date. Once that surgery comes, self-acceptance takes most in the time of like you understanding how like you're not immediately dropping 200 pounds, right? Like, and can you love yourself and accept yourself for how quickly or how slowly your journey is becoming? So timing and self-acceptance going hand in hand there. Really, if you need to talk to your doctor, is this normal, right? Is it normal that my body is doing this? Is it normal that my mind is here, or that I'm fixating on this particular component? So the timing and what you prioritize is a little bit different, but you can hitch your bandwagon of self-acceptance to what's normal and expected, right? And you can talk to your doctor. This community is great for that. Constipation is a really big thing in the community to talk about, and how to help people have natural bowel movements. And so is absorption, right? Which is why ProCare health products are amazing, because they give you everything you need. But to that point, like, these are things that other people in different communities may not understand. And for post-surgery individuals, especially with timing, when does it feel like you can have a regular movement, right? What kind of vitamins to take for that absorption? When should you start taking those vitamins? When should you start thinking, differently from surgery life to now regular life practice, and that transition? All of that changes and is so important, in communities like this are very important for that time period. Because let me tell you, there's no question, no goriness, no grossness that anyone here hasn't dealt with or been informed about themselves, right? This is one of the most welcoming communities where you can talk about all of that. So
I love that. Can I add to that for you?
yeah,
With
absolutely.
this, I think, so before I worked with ProCare Health, I worked in a bariatric program, and I did all of our pre-op teaching for a lot of our patients. And what I heard over and over again is, as patients were making that decision, maybe they hadn't even made it yet. And I know there's probably people on this call that are right there in that period of time. You're in the process of getting prepared for surgery, getting ready for surgery. And sometimes we say things, like you said, out loud, or we talk about like our decisions, what we're going to make. And, the more comfortable you feel with that decision, if you're verbalizing it outward, other people are going to resonate with that. The less comfortable you are with your decision, the more people are going to resonate with that. It's energy. So what I just want to say here is, if you're super uncomfortable with a decision, instead of looking outward, look at things inside yourself that kind of help you prove to make that decision in the way that you want to make it, that feel comfortable for you, before going out there and looking for approvals. Because you're going to find things on both spectrums, and the more comfortable you feel with your decision, the more other people are going to feel comfortable with it.
Absolutely, Brenda. I 110% agree, which is a nice segue into thinking and injecting self-acceptance in the type of surgery that you've decided, right? So I want you to think about your favorite color, right? And someone asks you, what's your favorite color? And mine is green, right? So if someone were to say, well, I don't like green, well, that's fine. You don't need to like green. I don't feel anything personal about someone else not liking green or not choosing green in their life, right? And why is that? That's because it's my inherent choice. I value my choice. And it's a space that I feel pretty foundational, pretty solid in self-acceptance, right? No one can crack it. No one can permeate it. Other decisions, though, do have cracks, do have spaces where you're lying in bed at night and you start hearing all of these invasive little thoughts. It's like, well, what if we went left instead of right? What if this surgery instead of that one? What if this? What if that, right? The what ifs just kill you over time. It really does. And so with figuring out the types of surgery and also utilizing community, it's one way to figure out what kind of processor, what kind of surgery, and what is exactly is your question, right? But doing all of that processing in the beginning is helpful in the outset. So say you're in between two surgeries. It's helpful to ask the community, hey, pros and cons, surgery 1 and 2. I'd like to know your perspective. Then you're in the research phase. You're not defending anything, and you're not being triggered to be offensive, right? Because you're just researching. But once you've decided, that's where you can start figuring out first against yourself, why did you choose that, right? Writing out, as dorky as it sounds, a pro-con list. What about this surgery drew you to it? Because underneath all of that is recognizing that you are the captain of your ship, and your opinion is the highest thing on anybody else's, right? Your opinion comes first. Your well-being comes first. You are prioritizing yourself first, and you are respecting yourself most of all, right? No one else can make these decisions for you. Only you can do them. But I think as parents, as community members, as women for some, that this idea to be nurturing, to bend backwards for people, to take people's input, to be complacent, whatever it is, right? To be nurturing, it like directly conflicts with I am important and this is what I'm doing, right? And so I'd like to invite you, if you resonate with any of that, I'd like you to invite you to nurture yourself first, to act like you are your child, right? Or you are your parent. Like I was told to value elders and parentage above all. And then I was like, that's messed up. I value me first, then parents, and everything else comes first, right? Because I'm the only person, like, this is a meat sack. It's just bones and cells all together, right? The only person that's housed within this particular shell is me, my consciousness, the same as every one of you. So you need to be very like first on your list, because no one will care about the body, the shell that you have, as much as you will, because they're just not in it, right? Like that's one way to just depersonalize that. So anyways, the way you inject self-acceptance into the type of surgery is to hype yourself up. Why did you choose, from an academic space, why did you choose it? Why is it a sound, logical decision? Why does the timing work? Why does the finances work? And why does your mental health work in this space, right? Why are you choosing now versus 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago? Every one of those questions and the answers to them are anchors. There are ways that you create a barrier around that decision, so that way you can talk about it and advocate for it. And if someone else comes up with an off the remark concept or comment, it's not going to stay in our heads. We're going to be a duck. We're going to wash it off. It's going to be impenetrable. So that's the key to making peace on your decision.
That's so on key. I wanted to add to that too. I think a big part of this, guys, is trust. Not trusting anybody else but yourself, trusting. And what I mean by that is using your intuition to know what decisions are best for you too. Because part of this is, I think part of the problem here is because we learn, just as Jessica said, from our elders, from community, from society, expectations and things like that, instead of, and we trust society above ourselves. And sometimes we just know without a doubt what's right for us, you know?
Exactly. For those of you that like horror movies, you know, when you find the characters going in the deep dark hallway and you're like, no, don't do that, right? Like that sound, that voice in your head, that's you. It's not anybody else. It's not society. It's not anything else. And finding our voice, our internal voice, our consciousness can be kind of hard. But anytime you find yourself like vehemently disagreeing with something, make purchase with who that person is. Who is she? Who is he? Who is they, right? Whoever they are in your head, that is the person that you need to talk to, that you need to bolster, that you need to embolden with your decisions, because that's the person that's in charge of your self-acceptance. That's the person that in the face of adversity laughs or defends or honors whatever it is that you have decided. Finding that voice can be a little difficult, but in certain life practices, and I find funny that like when you're irritated tends to be the biggest, like loudest version of yourself there, right? So anyways, I want to segue into creating support systems. So now that we're all on the same page of you are the captain of your boat, you are the most important VIPest of VIP individuals, right? How do we then invite other people into our process and into our journeys, maintaining healthy boundaries, so that way we maintain that self-acceptance, or that help us find self-acceptance when we get there? So I'd like to start with a story. You know, my mom has always felt like the black sheep of our family. And she always found the differences between herself and whoever else was out there, right? And I'm sure a lot of us can resonate with that feeling. It's a very isolating and alone feeling. And anytime I tried to offer any words of comfort and self acceptance when she couldn't find it, Mom, you're beautiful. Mom, you're strong. Mom, look at your journey and all the things that you have done. Her go to was like, you're my daughter. I have to love you. Right. And I was like, first of all, I don't have to love you. I don't have to do anything. I choose to. Right. Um, but there was a piece in her that was rejecting my help because she felt that I was biased, right, in some way. And so that's why it's important when crafting your support network to recognize the walls that you are building that's inhibiting other people from loving you, from you feeling the love that people are trying to show you. Because no matter what they say and no matter what they do, as long as you are building those walls, they're not going to get through. It's only something that we can, right? And so I remember not when my mom was needing acceptance or anything like that. It was a very neutral conversation. I asked her, I said, do you understand that if I did not respect you, if I did not love you, if I did not value you, I don't care that you're my family, I would go no contact, right? Because I needed her to confront this truth, to accept my love, that I am here by a choice, not because of an obligation. My loving her is a choice, not an obligation, so that she could see that and feel it in a different light. And I've gone through this process with every single one of my friends, with all of my loved ones, everyone in my network, because I wanted them to know that our companionship is a designed alliance between us. So I'll never take their presence just for granted, right? I'm grateful for their presence and I'm grateful for their advice or whatever it is that they enrich my life by and I enrich theirs. But it was my way of tearing down those boundaries because I was doing the same. You've known me for 10 years. You're always going to love me. I'm not going to value what you say. Well, that's not true, right? People can leave your life at any moment in time. And it's recognizing that they are telling you good things because you are worthy of hearing those good things. They're not telling you good things just because they're placating you or they're trying to manipulate you or whatever else that, our little mind demons can tell us. But we have to accept that. The second piece of all of that is that when we're on this journey, it's harder to take the advice of someone who hasn't known our pain, who hasn't been through what we have been through. So that second piece, that first piece being what walls am I building that prohibits self-love from others, right? The second piece is recognizing what advice we value and putting ourselves in those positions of those people, right? So for example, in this community, if you're on year 1 of your journey and you are seeking mentorship, right? You want to be a mentee, then talking to someone who hasn't had that surgery yet is not giving you exactly what you need, right? Because it's putting you in the mentor role, not the mentee role. So you might want to talk to somebody who's in year 3, year 5, and year 10 to build those expectations, right? Of people who have had that surgery that you have had. Sharina, I hope I'm saying one of those variations right. I absolutely, the care team, your family has helped to make decisions more peaceful. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Recognizing that you value something from others. So this past semester, it was my first semester being a professor at a law school. Charlie, good to meet you. I perfect. See, Linda, finding someone that you can relate. It helps before and after surgery. Exactly. So this was my first year teaching and I had an experience and I was feeling pretty down and my partner was trying to tell me that I was doing really great. And I was like, I hear you. Thank you. But I'm not accepting your advice because you're not an educator. You haven't been through what I've been through. So you're not speaking to the part of me that's hurting, right? That's the importance of this community. There are certain types of love, there's certain types of advice or acceptance or understanding that different people can give us. So if you haven't built your support network yet, or you're still building it, I'd like to invite you to think of your support network as a board of directors, right? Each director gives you something different, speaks to something different about you. And so as you build your board of directors, and as you're hurting, whatever it is, whatever makes you feel insecure or unsure or alone, whatever that is, to sit with those emotions and ask yourself, who is the perfect person that could speak to this person? What do they look like? What kind of surgery did they have? How far along in their journey are they? What kind of experiences would I like them to have? All of those things helps you bring you closer to putting yourself in the communities where you're going to find that help, whatever it is, whatever the person is, right? Even if it's just valuing authenticity, a lot of the times I just want someone to be real with me. And when I find someone that does that, I'm like, oh, we're good, we're friends, this is fantastic, or this is going to be a great coaching relationship, or whatever it is. But really, think of the board of directors when you're building your support network. You can always add people. You can revoke membership of others, but it's always in flux and it's always dynamic, and it's so very helpful.
Somebody's asking too, it looks like Dorothea, about commenting. So you can comment in the chat box, or you can comment whether you're on Facebook. It looks like I have a comment from Facebook I want to say here too. So you can comment in the chat box if you're on Crowdcast, and if you're wanting me to send attendance for you, comment in the Q&A box. And if you're on Facebook, I actually just added my email to that. There is a question from Whitney Winter. It says, so how do I build my network?
Yeah. So the first part of building your network is just auditing. What is your current network? What is your current infrastructure, right? And say you're starting from zero, which is completely fine. When you start from zero, you're already you initiate a discovery phase, right? You initiate this sort of research phase. So to build that community is what you're doing right now, showing up, talking to other commenters, seeing what kind of comments they've put or what they like, joining forums or communities, even if it's just a shout like, hi, this is my name. This is where I'm at in my journey. I would like to meet some like-minded individuals, right? You can keep it just very like first day of school, like introduction, 2 sentences type situation. And then you just go through the process of meeting other individuals and trust your gut, right? Not everybody's advice is welcome or on the same frequency as you are, and that's okay. But you start building a network by first just putting yourself out there within the levels of your comfortability. So some people like to go to in-person get-togethers like that conference, right? My mom would rather not meet people that way. She feels more comfortable behind a keyboard, right? The keyboard gives me anxiety. So we're all different in that regard. You know yourself best. Was it Whitney? Was that the person who asked the question? Yeah. You know yourself best, Whitney, and think on valuable friendships or even just positive interactions that you've had. Why were they positive? How did you meet that other individual? What was the landscape? Was it a Reddit post? Was it a forum post? Was it at a coffee shop, right? Whatever it is, because there's so many Facebook communities that people like to get up and go walk or get up and go grocery shopping together so that they can prepare or meal plan, right? There's so many different avenues that plug into this space that you can start building that network. Also, it's great. We see that Charlie and Enid both have found some through this community and through their research, and it's just one of those things, it's you ask yourself, like, how do I make friends and how do I put myself out there? And especially if you've had a job or you've been a parent for the past 15 years and you only know other parent friends, it's hard to break that nucleus. And so again, judgment doesn't belong anywhere in this conversation. Like I don't want any of you to entertain the notion of like, I don't have anybody right now and I'll never have anybody, because that really underneath that is saying that you're not worth having anybody. And you absolutely are, right? So if you are worthy of having those experiences, how can you be gentle to yourself in doing that? Are you a computer person or in-person person or a group activity person? Asking yourself those questions is really the first step in a long journey to building that support network.
Jessica, too, I think that, like you said, that it depends on your personality, like what you want. I think some people are better like in person, some people online. If you're an online person, stuff like this kind of gets you behind the scenes. You can chat and not feel like you're having to put in a vulnerable spot. If you're wanting to be, I know there's so many communities out there. I'm going to name a few because I know some of them are on this, but your program, a lot of times they'll have in-person support groups. There's communities out there like Berry Nation that are communities where you subscribe and you become a member. So depending on the intimacy level, there's Facebook. Sometimes you kind of got to be careful with some of these groups. So I'm just going to say sometimes it's so open that you gotta know that you're putting yourself out there. Other people, depending on how, I don't want to say secretive, but how much you're wanting people to know about yourself in certain categories of your life. Some people like to kind of keep things quiet. So it kind of just depends. So I just wanted to add that.
Exactly. And one little bit I wanted to supplement that with, and I know this is, at least for me, it was terrifying. I go to a gym, and it's not one of the like tiny ones, and it's not like a 24-hour fitness type, but it's kind of in the middle, one of the super affordable ones. And they have classes, right? And I got into a motorcycle injury when I was 19 and messed up my shoulder. And so my upper body is just trash. Like it's not great. So when I started thinking about going to classes, I didn't want to feel like an idiot just and publicly around people and that kind of thing. And so I just would walk by the classes I was interested in just to get a vibe of like who was there, what was the population, what was the age group, what was the capabilities, right? And I'm not a strong swimmer, and I want to take like a swimming class situation so that I can be a strong swimmer. And I've done the same. And so I just wanted to share that bit, because when you think about also like outside of this community into your own communities, into your own gyms, that kind of thing. And the gym is a sore spot for a lot of individuals. So in no way am I advocating for anybody to push their limits beyond, right? But whatever, if it is something that you are interested in, you can always go and say, hey, to the people, like, I'm interested in a couple of classes. Do you have a schedule that I can see, right? And then you can just show up and walk by before you commit, right? Before you do anything. You can always don't forget, you can always just dip your toe in some things just to figure them out and to the level of your comfort. And again, this comes not from a place of judgment, but making processes gentler for yourself. I need to check out the vibe before I commit to anything. I've walked by this yoga for beginners class like 4 times before I decided to go inside. And by then I felt very confident that what I was wearing and what I brought would make me prepared for what it is, right? Some people don't need all of that, and that's fantastic. But if you do, give yourself what you need in order to do that, right? Also, there's a lot more classes on mobility and joint health now, which is super important whenever your absorption rate changes. You get a little bit more achy, the capabilities change, but just putting yourself in spaces that scare you a little bit, not a lot of it, just a little bit, like productive fear, right? Productive challenge, whatever it is. Putting yourself in spaces like that can also be super beneficial. So my mom is a swimmer. She loves it. And it took her a long time to figure out where she wanted to swim, what the gym vibe was, how far it was from the locker room, what was the people who would go to the gym, would it make her feel bad about herself? And she nixed out a whole bunch of gyms because of that until she found the right one. So it's perfectly okay to be Goldilocks in this situation, but putting yourself out there in a more physical sense can align you with people who are similar on their journey and within your community. So you can go out for a coffee, or you can go out for a walk, or whatever that looks like. And so that's a little bit beyond the internet, but I just wanted to inject that. With the last couple of minutes that we have, I wanted to lastly touch on that building result expectations with that self-acceptance in mind, right? So similar to this gym journey, and a lot of people are like, go work out, go do yoga, go do this. And they don't think about like the nuances of making all of that happen. When your body hurts, when you hurt, like everything hurts, you don't want to do all of the things that take a lot of time and space, right? So when I talk about no judgment here, it's not easy to get to that mindset. And I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm gonna talk about why it ties into that result expectation. So if you are a high performer or a perfectionist, or you're in a job position that requires you to be more of yourself, right? More professional, or whatever it is that looks like, the seeds of judgment are already there, right? Judgment then becomes a productive sense. I don't want to be this, so I'm going to be this, right? I don't want to be that person that's late all the time and everybody talks crap about, so I'm going to be in person, on time, whenever it is that I need to be, right? There's a judgment that influences in action. And it's a very subconscious piece that it's hard to catch, kind of like fishing in murky water. But if you listen closely to your habits, to your self-talk, what gets you out of bed in the morning, what motivates you, and if you're a person that finds that you're more motivated by negativity, you're trying to avoid being something, trying to avoid being seen or perceived as something, that kind of thing, the first step is just recognizing that your subconscious space is riddled with judgment. And that's okay. It's just important to recognize it, right? To attach, to put in this detachment. I'm not a bad person because I'm judgy, because you're not. I'm just a judgy person. Okay, what can I do with that? How can I inject a little bit more self-compassion into what it is that I'm doing, right? In other words, you don't know what to speak to until you recognize that there's something in the room, that judgment is in the room. So how does that relate to results expectations? When you recognize, for myself, going to the gym, Jessica, you're being ridiculous. You should just go. That no one's looking at you. No one cares. You can just show up and be there. Telling myself that when I'm anxious isn't helpful, right? I'm not going to just put on my big girl pants and be fine with that. Some people can. And if that's your way of motivating yourself, absolutely go forward, right? Take what resonates, leave the rest. But for those of you that want to be more gentler or more compassionate to yourself, then I invite you to flip the script a little bit, right? Jessica, why are you anxious about this? What makes you uncomfortable? Is it what you're wearing? Do you want more layers to what you're doing, right? Do you want more time? Is this the time to be going right now? Do you want to go early in the morning or later at night? And using those questions, that self journey to push yourself into whatever it is that you're trying to do becomes a lot more manageable. Because now I'm going to the gym wearing what I want to wear at the time that I want to do it, and at the sort of least resistance to my motivation as I can possibly get, right? So with the result expectation, everyone's body works so different. Everyone has a different ecosystem. Some people lose weight quicker. Some people take a little bit longer. Some people lose bunches of fat, but then get skin problems as a result, right? And people might be the reverse. Whatever it is, right? It can really, our self-image can tear a hole into who we are, right? Because it's how we face the world. It's what we see when we look into a mirror. It's very easy to let these sort of negative things come in mind. This is where your program and your surgeon and doctors are really going to help you, because they're going to be your normalcy, like your anchor, right? Is it normal that my body is doing this, right? I haven't pooped in 2 weeks and I would really like to poop. Is that normal or am I crazy, right? Like, the community here is very important for that. And also talking to your doctor, like, if I'm a size 18, is it foreseeable, right? Is it probable that I could get down to a size 14 by the end of this year, right? And if so, how do I make that happen? Then that's a lot more gentler of a process for yourself than, hey, doctor, I'm a size 18. I'd like to be a size 2 in the next year, right? That's going to be probably very bad for your body, very bad for what's going on, right? This is also where information is super powerful, right? Understanding what happens to your body. Why do you have absorption issues or constipation issues? What kind of surgery are you getting, and how does that change your physiology, right? You become almost like a doctor of yourself in your own right. So that way, when you do have gas, for example, you're not able to say like, oh, I'm so embarrassed that I'm so gassy. You're like, this is a normal piece of my body that's doing whatever it's doing right now. We normalize it. We take it away from shame. We take it away from judgment. We take it away from expectation, and we put it into this realistic space where we can just accept whatever it is that's in front of us with an open heart. And it's okay if at first you're just frustrated, right? You're like, I've been out of surgery X amount of months. I expected to lose this amount, but I'm only on this amount, and I'm frustrated by it. It's okay to sit in those negative feelings. I'm not advocating for like extreme gratitude or anything. Sit with those negative feelings, feel whatever it is that you need to feel, and then ask yourself, can I readjust my expectations? Right? Is there something that I can change here? Can I be more gentler with my process? Maybe my goals are too far out and I need to ring them in a little bit, right? Whatever it is that you need to do. And even if you have a hard day just yelling at yourself in your head, and then finally you're tired and you're like, what if I don't want to feel this way? Right? That's okay. You don't then berate yourself that you spent all day being mean to yourself. You accept that at that moment, you're ready for a perspective change. You're like, yes, I was feeling pretty negative earlier today, but I had whatever it is that I needed and I feel better. Congratulations, Linda. That sounds fantastic. That sounds fantastic. See, and celebrating, and the last thing I'll say to all of you guys is celebrating yourself and allowing other people to celebrate you is one way that you can support those realistic expectations, right? If that was your goal, four sizes in 2 years, right? Hell yeah, that's amazing. And letting yourself feel that and other people feel it for you. Hey, you know what? I was really craving a Coke today and it almost brought me to my knees, but I had some freaking water instead. Small thing to celebrate. You won in that moment, right? So accomplishments and what you celebrate can be anything, anything. And if you're more on the negative side, or if life has just, if you're like a people pleaser and people don't celebrate you and all of that other stuff, maybe build some little ones along the road, right? Some little peppers of really good things that you're like, I'm going to celebrate the fact that I woke up today, right? That today was a good day. Or I'm going to celebrate the fact that even though my morning was crap, I feel better this afternoon. So some people, you might want more celebration in those types of spaces, and other people might want them a little bit further along. But do build them, build your benchmarks, make them realistic, make them fun and exciting, and ways to motivate you. Because ultimately, all of that is how we build self-acceptance into our life practices. It's just consciousness and being gentler and compassionate with ourselves in moments where we're losing sight of that.
Oh, Jessica, that's great. To add to that, to kind of pile on to what you just said, I think too, sometimes it's hard to know exactly what judgment is. And I feel like the opposite of judgment is discernment. And what that means is you're leading your decisions with, you have to ask yourself, pay attention to what's in your heart and lead with like your wisdom and then also your experiences and like build upon that. Ask yourself, is this judgment? Is this discernment? And be honest. There's nothing wrong with being honest. I don't know if anybody's watched the movie The Whale. I watched it on my way back from a trip I just was on the airplane. Anyways, the main character in the movie is obese, and he is living his life with his emotional eating and that type of thing. And the thing about it is, though, he talks a lot about his daughter, who he doesn't have a relationship with, and the perception of her is different from, right? Yeah, Angela says she cried her eyes out almost. To me, it's about perception, like how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive other people. Some people could perceive somebody, his daughter seemed to be very angry, and a lot of people would perceive her as being mean and terrible. But in his heart, he saw her in a different light. And it was about being honest with society. She was able to tell people how she really felt. Her way of doing that might have been a little different than most people. So I just want to say that I guess what I was trying to do is just pile on to what you said, by the opposite of judgment. Like if you're wanting to avoid judgment for yourself and criticism is discernment, like looking at what's in your heart and, understanding what that really means, being honest with yourself, whether it seems negative. To me, there's nothing really that is negative or positive. It's just energy. And like, you have to be honest with yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So at that, Jessica, since we're kind of getting close to the tail end, I'd love for you to share what you would like to share with this community. If anything about yourself, about if there's questions, if you want to promote what you do, and if anybody would like to reach out to you, a way to get a hold. I know we put that in the chat earlier. Would you like for me to go back up and copy and repaste that?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm doing it right now.
Okay, perfect.
So
Perfect.
so I'm putting my contact information in the chat. I can be reached at via email, my website, or social media such as Facebook or Instagram. On my Facebook and Instagram, though, for the last quarter, I've gone on a little bit of a social media hiatus just from posting. And so if you have any questions, please let me know. If you'd like to work together, I'd love to work with you. And I'm, let's talk about that process for a second. So everyone gets a free discovery call. It's about half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on how the conversation goes. And really, we're just looking for right fit. What are your goals? How can I help you along them? In that vein. But if you just want to, like, another person in your support network, and you just want to chat, I'm open to that too. So send me an email, check out my website, whichever works for you. Again, I'm a stress management coach. I help individuals on their weight loss journey. I help them on their trauma journey, on their educational journey. Really, anywhere there's stress, I'm there.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, what would you say for anything related to like coaching, anything related to anxiety management, stress, any of that stuff? And it can be business related too, like if you have a business, and because you also do that too, from what I understand.
Yes, I do a little bit of career consulting. Really, it's the root behind magnificent transition, right? And transformation. So if you are in a space where you're contemplating which surgery you want to do, or the timing, or you're having difficulty establishing boundaries with the people in your life, those are all under the stress management umbrella. And so, discovery calls are free. Check them out.
I love that. And I just put mine on there too as well. If anybody has any questions regarding this, I will go through. I know there was quite a few people that posted, whether it be on Facebook or here, about attendance. So I will make sure and go through all of those and CC you on any email to your weight loss surgery program. You're needing that. I also just want to kind of bring up too, real quickly, Jessica, we are starting, as I mentioned earlier in the call, in case anybody jumped on later, I'm going to share my screen, entire screen, and I am going to jump on real quick, do a little share here. We are here at ProCare. I'm going to go here. Whoops, I have two things here. So how can I continue to get ProCare via live events? We are starting something brand new starting May 1st. And what we're going to be doing is be on Zoom. So all of our events will soon be listed on a hub page on our website. I'm going to post the link here. The link is available. The page is available. The events aren't listed yet. We do have, I think, four events, 5 events we'll be posting for next month. We'll also be posting all of our replays on our YouTube channel. That is something brand new. And we actually have been posting there for a while, but we have not been promoting that whatsoever. And everything that will be added to podcasting. So all the audio, if you're wanting to just listen, if you listen on like iHeart or Spotify or all that, starting May 1st, any event after May 1st that's live in public will be posting also on a podcast form. So our new, very new, brand new logo for this is Very Connected. Okay, so you can see it here on this page that I'm posting. Very Connected. So look for us. It'll also be on our ProCare Health stuff as well. So I want to just share that. And if anybody is interested in checking out anything from our ProCare site, real quickly, I'll share that. We just changed websites. It looks almost identical to our old website, but it has different features and functionality. And so we're hoping that things will be a little easier and better for that matter. Just procarenow.com. We usually have a free sample button. It looks like they put it right here now in the middle. I believe we're back off to offering free samples again. We had a week. We're moving our offices as well. We have like 10 projects going on at the same time. So many new incredible things. Kind of stop sharing there and then I'll just share the link. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, Jessica, like you said, to get to connect. We know time is very valuable. We're glad you guys are here. And just thank you. That's just from the bottom of my heart. That's really what I have to say about that. You have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say in closing, Jessica?
Just that I am supremely proud of every single person that showed up here today for sharing your time. I am extremely grateful. But it's hard to choose you in a world that says choose everything else. And so I cannot express like how amazed I am by this community and grateful that you've all just spent the last hour with me. And so I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your journeys. I think it's been phenomenal what you're doing for yourself. So I'm happy to have been a little piece of that.
Just a little piece, just a little bit. Yes. So again, we have another question. I think we answered it, but I want to make sure that I am doing it here on this form. It says, can I rewatch this? You can rewatch it. Same link that you got here to get on Crowdcast or on Facebook. It'll be on our Facebook page, but also it'll be on our YouTube channel. Okay. So just look up ProCare Health, vitamins and supplements. And that is our new place. Subscribe because you'll get on our YouTube channel if you would like, because you'll get notifications when we post new videos. So I think that's everything. Well, we're gonna be hopping off here. We want to thank everybody for the time. You have our information. If anybody has anything they'd like to say, I'm looking to make sure any compliments. It looks like Jessica. That's excellent presentation, and I agree. This is one of my favorites. It's been wonderful. I mean, what else is better than accepting yourself? And I feel like that is part of the weight loss journey. I feel like challenges are put in our life. Maybe it's our physical health for whatever reason. I feel like challenges are put there in order for us to just become more of who we are. to recognize, like, I feel like the hardest challenges, the hardest things are just like little light bulbs turning on us onto our life purpose, to why we're here, what we're meant to share. Like those things that mean something to you mean something. So
Oh, beautifully said.